Loneliness is strange, isn't it? It's one of the few emotions that can make you feel completely isolated, even when you're not physically alone. You can be sitting in a crowded cafe, scrolling through hundreds of faces online, even surrounded by people who love you, and still feel unseen. Still feel like you're on the outside, looking in. I think loneliness is one of the quietest kinds of pain. It doesn't scream or shout. It just sits there, heavy and still. It's not dramatic like heartbreak or loud like anger. It's subtle, slow, and patient. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because it can creep up on you. You wake up one morning and realize you haven't really talked to anyone, like really talked, in weeks or months, longer. Sometimes loneliness isn't about others being gone. It's about feeling disconnected from yourself. You start to notice that you don't recognize the person you've become. You miss who you were when life felt lighter. And it hurts in a way that's hard to explain, because there's no event to point at. No death or no breakup, no headline moment that caused it. It's just this ache that lingers under everything. There's a line I once heard that stuck with me. Loneliness is the hunger of the soul. And that's exactly how it feels, because it's so hard to describe. It just feels hollow. It's not just the absence of company. It's the absence of being understood. Being understood by yourself even. People often confuse loneliness with being alone, but they're really not the same thing. You can be alone and feel peaceful. That's solitude. That's when you're comfortable in your own company. Just me and the voices in my head. But loneliness is when being alone with yourself almost feels unbearable. I think we've all felt that at some stage. I know I have. That quiet dread at night when the house goes silent and your thoughts become too loud. That feeling of scrolling endlessly through social media surrounded by everyone's highlight reels and wondering, why does everyone else feel so connected when I feel completely empty? That moment when you send a message and stare at the scene tick, waiting for a reply that never comes. Loneliness tricks you into thinking that nobody cares. It tells you that you're forgettable, that you don't belong, that nobody would notice if you disappeared or just weren't here anymore. That's how dark a place loneliness can lead you to. I've been there. But those are lies spoken by irrational fear, not truth. Loneliness likes to be a trickster. It wants to pull you away when you most need to reach out. And it's good at it. I went through a time where loneliness was almost like a second skin. I had people around me, loads of people, but I felt like I couldn't talk to them about what was really going on. So I smiled and said I'm fine. I wasn't. Inside, I was sinking. And that's what loneliness does. It convinces you to hide. And you can get so bad, so deep down this hole, that you don't even want to reach out anymore. But here's the thing. The only way to break loneliness is through connection. And not connection with others, but connection with yourself. Because if you don't feel at home inside your own mind, no amount of company is going to fill that gap. I promise. You might think you're craving people, but often you're craving yourself. The version of you that feels connected to something bigger than just routine. So how do you reconnect with yourself when you've drifted so far away? You start by listening. Turn down the noise, the phone, the distractions, the pretending. Sit with yourself and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? It's very uncomfortable at first. It's almost painful. It's because you're forcing yourself not only to ask, but to answer the questions that you've gotten so good at avoiding, at hiding from. But somewhere under the silence, your true voice is waiting to talk back to you. I promise, and it has a lot to say. And once you hear it again, you will start to remember who you are. Build yourself a safe space. A space that's just yours, where you don't have to mask or impress or perform. It's tiring. It could be the corner of your room, a place you go for walks, even a playlist that feels like home. A space where you can let the loneliness exist without judgment. Because the more you try to run from it, the louder it gets. But when you face it gently, it starts to soften. Sometimes loneliness isn't about being alone at all. It's your soul whispering, or sometimes shouting, I need more meaning. Not more people, not more noise, not more plans, not more scrolling, not more talking. Meaning, depth, something real. You might be craving connection, but it's not the shallow kind you're looking for. The kind that slips through your fingers the second you look away. You're hungry for someone to truly see you. Not the version you present. Not the mask. Not the voice you put on for the room. You. But here's the part nobody tells you. That kind of connection starts by seeing yourself first. By sitting with your emotions instead of running from them. By asking, what do I actually need? Instead of, what's everybody else doing? By listening to the quiet parts of you, the ones you keep ignoring because they don't fit the life you think you're supposed to live. It's true. Loneliness is often a sign that the life you're living isn't lining up with the life you're longing for. It's a mismatch, a disconnection. And that's not a failure. Use it as a compass. It's pointing you towards depth, towards truth, toward the people and places where you don't have to shrink or pretend. Loneliness can feel like emptiness. But sometimes it's actually the space being cleared for something new, something real to grow. If you can, try writing. Not for anybody else, just for you. Write what it feels like to be lonely. Describe it, draw it even. Give it a name. Because once it's out of your head and onto paper, it becomes something that you can look at, not something that owns you. It also engages a different part of your brain. That's why it works. And if you're lonely because you lost someone, maybe to death or distance or just time, let yourself grieve that. Loneliness is often just grief in disguise. We have a video on grief if you'd like to watch it. The space that person used to fill doesn't disappear. It stays waiting. Neural pathways have been built that are still looking to connect, and they're looking hard. And you can't fill it with anyone else, but you can learn to grow around it. And if you're lonely because people have drifted away, remember that's part of life too. People grow in different directions. It does not mean you weren't enough. It just means that your paths diverged. There are still people out there who will meet you where you are now, not who you used to be. But you won't find them if you're still punishing yourself for being alone. Reach out, even when it feels pointless. Send a message, join a group, go sit somewhere in public. A park, a library, cafe. You don't have to talk. Just exist near people again. Sometimes proximity is enough to remind your brain that you're not invisible. It's a positive move. Here's something that I had to learn the hard way. Loneliness doesn't disappear overnight. I don't think you'd want it to either. It would be too much of a shock to the system. It fades slowly, like fog after rain. You might not even notice it lifting until one day you realize you laughed without forcing it. You spoke without rehearsing it. You replied without overthinking it. You felt that little spark of connection again. That's how healing works. It's not a switch. It's a gradual returning. If you can, fill your world with small things that bring you comfort. Not massive changes, not grand gestures. Just little things that remind you you're still human. A morning routine, not a perfect one, just something that's predictable. Something your nervous system can lean on when everything else feels so uncertain. A movie or a series that feels safe. One you've watched over and over again for years. The kind that wraps around you like a memory and reminds you you're not as lost as you feel. I have mine. Even a warm drink, tea, coffee that slows you down for 30 seconds. Holding the mug, feeling the heat in your hands. That's grounding. That's your body saying you're here. You're real. A book or even a song you keep coming back to. Your favorite scene or verse. A highlighted sentence. Character that makes you feel less alone. A pet, a dog, 3 dogs, if you have one. Because animals don't judge, they don't question, they don't demand. They just exist beside you. And sometimes that's the closest thing to real connection you can feel. And these things might seem small and insignificant, but they're not trivial. They're signals. They tell your brain that the world isn't just sharp edges and empty rooms. They are pockets of warmth tucked into the quiet. But the thing is, when you're lonely, those pockets matter. They are the threads you pull yourself back into life with. One soft moment at a time. And please don't confuse loneliness with unworthiness. Being alone doesn't mean you're unlovable. Sometimes it just means you're in between chapters. This season of solitude might be teaching you how to love your own company again, or even for the first time, so that when the next person comes along, you won't lose yourself trying to keep them. You start to find peace in the silence. And eventually, being alone doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels spacious. You begin to see that loneliness isn't just the absence of others. It's an invitation to rebuild connection with the world, with people, with yourself. To reach out not from desperation, but from truth. If you're listening to this right now, maybe with that ache in your chest, please know you're not the only one. Millions of people feel exactly like you at this very moment. They are just hiding it too. You're part of a silent crowd of people pretending they're fine. And I promise you, connection will find its way back to you. It always does. It starts small, almost invisible. A smile from a stranger. A message you weren't expecting. A moment that reminds you the world hasn't forgotten you. Hold on to those little signs because they're proof that the loneliness is temporary. So tonight, when the silence feels heavy, don't see it as proof that nobody cares. See it as a pause, a space being cleared for something new, something wonderful. Because loneliness isn't the end of the story. It's the space between endings and beginnings. And in that space, you're still growing. You're still here. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You're not unloved. You're just human, learning how to belong again. There's something so powerful about learning to enjoy your own presence. When you stop running from yourself, the silence becomes less threatening. It becomes spacious. One day soon, you'll wake up and the silence won't hurt as much. You'll sit with yourself and realize, I'm okay. I'm enough. I'm not lonely anymore. I'm just me. And the voices in my head. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who might be feeling the same. Because sometimes the simplest way to fight loneliness is to remind someone else that they're not alone. My name is John. You're welcome to be here. And you're more than welcome to stay here. You're not alone.